Hello and welcome back to Dad's Planning Politics.
Hi everyone, welcome back. We are together today because my dad is visiting me currently in Canberra, our nation's capital, if you're not from Australia. And we've got lots to talk about, as usual. First we're gonna get into Trump and Elon and the biggest breakup of recent months in pop culture, I would say. Then we're gonna get into Gaza and everything happening there. And then we're gonna go back to Australian politics. Keep it a bit quick, keep it simple. Good
Perfect.
rundown for you guys. Yeah.
So the bromance is over. As many people had predicted, it would last, 3 to 6 months. It lasted 4.5 months. And they are now attacking each other big time. And Elon has just recently said Trump should be impeached, that his budget bill is a disaster for the US, that Trump is in the Epstein files, and Jeffrey Epstein, the sex trafficking guy who committed suicide in jail some years ago now. And the interesting thing with this is that Trump has not sued Elon over that. So if he is actually in the Epstein files, he probably wouldn't sue Elon. But if he wasn't in the Epstein files, he definitely would sue Elon. So this is a very big deal for Trump. And it's really interesting whether this attacking each other goes on because it's a mutual destruction scenario.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you got into that. That's a really big topic, the Epstein files. You got into that really quickly. But yeah, this all comes down to the fact that people have been predicting this for an incredibly long time. They're both two egotistical superpowers, you could even call them.
Hmm.
They obviously are used to being like the apex predator, I guess you could say, of their various social circles. They're used to being the best with the most money, with the most influence, etc. So you can't have two people with such strong egos together in the same room for too long a time because obviously they're going to end up disagreeing and it's not going to work out. But yeah, I think it all started from, if you look back a few months ago, Elon saying about Trump, I love Trump as much as a straight man can love another man. Um, and then it goes to him calling him out for being in the Epstein files. And it's interesting because before Trump took power during his campaign, he said that he would release all the Epstein files. But as we know, it's now June, and he has been in office for quite a while, and they have not all been released. So, what is the reason for that? Why has that not happened? We know that they were incredibly close in the 90s. They spent a lot of time together. Even now, they have a lot of close connections. People that are in Trump's close circle were once in Jeffrey Epstein's close circle. So it wouldn't be surprising if he was in the files, and we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, it would have been an incredibly quick turnaround if Trump was already trying to sue Elon, considering this only happened a day or so ago. But I suppose in the world of Trump, he has people to get shit done.
Now it's interesting because many people who fly close to the flame get burnt with Trump. But this is an interesting scenario with the world's wealthiest man who controls Twitter and the algorithms. This could be incredibly damaging
Mm.
to Trump. In fact, some people are pontificating that this might be the beginning of the decline of Trump.
Well, exactly. I mean, as I think the beginning of the decline has already started a while ago. I think that the public perception of Trump has, worsened incredibly. But as Elon said, Trump wouldn't have won the election without him. He's made many claims about that. I'm not sure if that's true, but he's made many claims about that and how he donated 260 million to the Republican Party, etc., for the campaign. And yeah, he does have a huge influence. I mean, when it comes to EV mandates, etc., which is said to be the fallout of Trump and Elon, the fact that they removed the EV mandate. And obviously, Elon has a vested interest in electric vehicles because of Tesla, so he wasn't so happy about that, and has now called Trump a liar and said that he's going back on his word. But they have such intertwined business
Well, yes,
at the
but,
moment.
well,
So
yes, but the issue now is Trump is threatening to rip up all the SpaceX and Starlink and Tesla contracts with the US government. But I actually think it's just a vain threat because this stuff is really needed by the US military.
I mean, it is, but I
And
don't think that Trump cares enough about that. I think at the
mm,
end of the day, he cares more if Elon is turning against him and saying some of the most damaging things you could say about him. He's not going to just let that go.
yeah, but I actually think the establishment might, the military establishment and Congress may actually not go along with this because you see,
Mm.
the thing is, what is Elon going to do if the US government cancels all his SpaceX contracts? He's going to talk to China and the European Union and everyone else, right?
Yeah,
And they take
exactly.
advantage of that technology.
Well, for sure. I mean, also, it's just a disaster because that's how we transport astronauts to the International Space Station. We've been using, SpaceX for a long time to do that. We, as in, the US,
NASA is reliant
NASA,
on SpaceX. Yeah,
incredibly
yeah.
reliant on them. So it's kind of just like defunding the entire like space industry in America and just trying to get them to do it independently. But America is such a privatized world. They want to privatize everything. You've privatized space and now you're trying to take it away. And the public industry doesn't work like it used
So
to.
it's going to be a fascinating battle between these two because uh, if anyone can take on Trump, it's Elon, and there's
Yeah.
talk of him wanting to start a third party beyond the Democrats and the Republicans. But I actually think he'll run out of energy for that. I mean, his whole political foray has not been very good for Elon. Even just this new fight with Trump, Tesla stock dropped 15% in a day, which was the biggest decline they've ever had beyond what's already declined. So um, difficult for Elon, and people talking about his rights to live in the country, even though he's a US citizen. The White House will start piling on to Elon, and it must be incredible pressure. You think about, even if you're the wealthiest man in the world, the pressure of this public
Well, yeah,
scenario.
for sure. Because I'm sure you get to the point where you start getting death threats constantly and
Hmm.
way too much public interest. I also think it's quite a scary thing when it comes down to it, right? Because this is just a fight, a disagreement, but it's a fight and a disagreement between two men who are some of the most powerful people in the world who both have missiles at their disposal that they could use at any second. And the fact that they both have that option is a pretty terrifying one. So let's hope they keep it to Twitter and they leave everything on X and that
I'm not
becomes their
sure Elon
battleground.
has missiles. He could attack
Yeah,
someone.
here's
Oh, yeah, but he
missiles.
doesn't have payloads of nuclear weapons
I'm not
or
saying
bombs on
nuclear,
them
I'm
and stuff,
saying
or bombs.
missiles. I didn't say
He
nuclear.
he has, yes, yes, rockets.
Nuclear is
He
a
has
massive
rockets and
level up
stuff,
from
but
normal missiles.
yeah, he has rockets,
It's
but
still
not,
kind of a big deal.
yeah. And he has Starlink. That's the key thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Nothing can work without that.
That's true. That's true. At least we're not all insanely dependent on that yet. I mean, we're getting there.
The majority of the world. Elon, they make net profit of $5 billion from Starlink alone.
Yeah, wow.
It's incredible.
I mean, that's great.
So yes, watch his space. It's going to be very interesting how uh, the Donald responds to all this
Mhm.
and what plays out.
And if you guys are interested in this topic as well, I heard a really interesting point of view on Elon, which was this guy being interviewed by Piers Morgan. I forget his name right now. I'm fairly sure it's Scott. But Piers Morgan, for once, was stunned and didn't have anything to say back, even though he's often been quite a strong supporter of Elon Musk. He had to completely agree with what this guy was saying because it was basically like, when in America did we come to value, business interest and power over basic human rights, right? Like, when did we come to like have someone who we know has done such disgusting things? It just doesn't matter because they have money.
Hmm.
When did we become that country?
Oh,
That's what this guy
some
was
years
saying. So
ago, I would say.
I mean, I think some years ago as well, I remember being quite surprised. I was like, guy, I don't think you know where you're living. But yeah, I would recommend having a look at that if you guys
Yeah,
had a chance.
fascinating stuff. So it'll be interesting to watch this space. And if you think about how the White House has already been leaking against Elon in terms of his use of ketamine and psilocybin,
Mm.
etc., that's all happened over the last week as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also, let's go back to the fact that Elon employed all those dropout university students to come in and get access to all the social security numbers of everyone in the entire United States of America. Surely the shit's about to hit the fan because the access and the like intelligence that he's had access to while he's been in Trump's close
Yep.
circle could now just be let out
It's
there.
all in his data lake
He
now.
may even have the Epstein files ready to release to the
Yeah, you never
public
know. I'm not sure they
for
were
all we know.
dropouts. They were smart young graduates. Were they dropouts?
No, they're dropouts.
Okay, but smart dropouts.
Okay.
Uh,
Right.
uh, all right, so watch this space. This is the ongoing saga. We'll continue on that. Shall we turn our attention to Gaza, the continuing terrible situation there?
Yeah, we're gonna turn back to that. Obviously this has been going for a really long time, and there have been stepped up efforts by Canada, France, etc. Macron came out a couple of weeks ago saying that we need to really be looking for a two-state solution, recognizing Palestinian statehood, etc., etc. And then that was around the time that the Slapgate happened, when his wife, Bridget, when she slapped him across the face as they were exiting their airplane. So that took over the media at the time, but at that moment he was going to a lot of conferences and talks about Gaza. So obviously that's been developing, but we don't really see any change
They've
there.
threatened it, but nothing's happened, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when does there come a point for these leaders like Marcani and Macron, etc., when they say, "Okay, that's it. Here's the sanctions, or here's the
Yeah. I mean, it's
scenario."
shocking we haven't already come to that point, right?
Yeah,
But it really shows how scared they are. And, their lack of confidence is like really pathetic compared to some other countries.
and Greta Thunberg is sailing on the peace initiative towards Gaza as we speak, right?
Yeah, she is. And that comes at a really interesting time, a really worrying time, because obviously aid has been incredibly disrupted for a really long time. So I think 1 in 5 people are at risk of starvation in Gaza at the moment. And the US has teamed up with Israel to create these distribution centers, food distribution centers under the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is the furthest thing from humanitarian that you can imagine, actually. So it's really ironic they're calling it that because they've essentially created these distribution centers where you have to line up like cattle in order to potentially get some of the really limited food supply that they have. And in recent weeks, as people have been lining up for food, some of them have been shot and killed.
Mm.
So they're, dragging people like animals to these places to, just for the hope
Yeah,
of
it's
food,
awful.
only to kill them. Really horrific stuff. And, the US is obviously complicit in that. Um, and at the same time, Greta Thunberg has now boarded the Freedom Flotilla. The previous one was bombed by Israel, um, and sunk, and now she is on the next one, which is incredibly brave,
Mm.
I would say. Don't you think? Obviously,
Yeah.
she's a powerhouse
Hmm.
in terms of activism. And I think that the world needs to look to Greta Thunberg and try and replicate what she's doing.
No, it's true. It's scary stuff. Hopefully they'll all be okay, and hopefully Israel doesn't do anything here. The challenge here is that they've sidelined all the UN aid agencies because they say they're in cahoots with Hamas, etc. And so they're trying to replicate those aid agencies, which is not
But they're not trying to
trivial, right?
replicate them.
There's sort of
They're not.
a minor version of it, right?
It's not even a minor version.
So it's just window dressing,
It's
do you
just,
think?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
Obviously, to try and placate the international community, because
Mm.
as we know, there's been a lot of attention on Gaza and what's been happening there, but there seems to be nothing anyone can do about it.
Yeah.
No matter how many protests happen, no matter how many everything. And then obviously there was a UN Security Council resolution that they tried to pass on Wednesday, which was to allow, unlimited aid access to Gaza for the international community. And, the US vetoed it. Surprise, surprise. So, like, you're saying, right, they're trying to replace the UN
Hmm.
food aid, etc., etc. The UN then says, okay, let's create access so other countries can come in and bring aid and replace what the job we were doing. Let's
Hmm.
do that. Israel, is that okay? Obviously, America says no, so it's not okay. So, the goal is to just starve everyone. And hopefully, some leaders get their acts together and actually start doing something about
But
it rather than just waiting around.
again, I say, where is the Middle East in all this? Where is Saudi? Where is UAE? Where are all these Muslim powerhouses in the Middle East? They say nothing about this
They
stuff, and I
okay.
know, but what are they doing about it, right?
Well, it's kind of like, what can they do? Do you want them to start World War III?
Well, I want them to not be doing deals with Donald Trump, etc., when he was just there until there's an agreement around Gaza. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, yeah, for sure, but you also can't like group together all those countries as a collective. I mean, then they're united in some sense, but not truly. They don't have any
Okay,
um
well, I say to
kind of a
Qatar, I
union.
say to UAE, I say to
Well,
Saudi,
Jordan, for example, is like one of the closest allies of
sure.
Gaza. So we have to look at Jordan, for example, of
Jordan
Palestine and
doesn't have
say,
a huge amounts of
well,
power, whereas Saudi and money,
I'm
Saudi and
saying,
UAE and
yeah,
Qatar, huge amount, and yet
yeah.
I
And what do
don't.
they care about? Money.
Well, yeah, but they should be caring about their brethren in the Palestinian brothers in Gaza.
Well, yeah, we should be caring about them too. They're just
But
humans.
I always think it's interesting how the Western countries are supposed to take the leadership with this, but I always feel like these other Middle East countries are missing in action when they're needed.
Okay, I would like to say as well that I think that we have a huge capacity to be doing something about it. If the Western countries did do something, if France, if Canada, if the UK
In
did
terms of
something,
sanctions, what would we do?
yeah,
Sanctions on
sanctions,
Israel. Yeah.
then I think that a lot of the world would follow. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that would be the same case with a lot of countries in the Middle East. Do you
I
know what I
know,
mean? If Jordan puts
but I'm
sanctions on
saying
Israel,
that's
I
the
don't.
problem. Yeah,
No, but I'm saying that we have created a world in which some countries have far more influence than others. So then you can't blame the countries that don't have as much influence for the problem. We are also complicit.
you look, to a degree, I agree, but I sort of disagree in a way as well because the Western countries are already always expect to take the action because that's what everyone's been used to.
No,
But
because
I
we
say,
forced it on
no, but
them.
Saudi has all the money and power to be able to do stuff about this, and they don't do anything.
Okay.
That's
I,
all I'm saying.
yes. And so I'm going to say Saudi is not a country that typically calls itself, democratic, etc., etc., right?
Hmm.
I would say that. We have that country, not democratic. And then we have democratic countries, which are meant to represent, we're built off the ideal of human rights and representing the people and ensuring like horrific tragedies like this don't happen. So for us not to do anything about it
Oh, I'm not.
is
Yeah, yeah, I
disgusting.
agree. I agree. But I'm just
I
saying
think of
if,
them more as a corporation, really.
okay, but I think you're letting them off easily in that regard because they're some of the powerhouses in the world
I'm
and they
not
should
let
take more
Okay. I'm not
responsibility.
letting them off easily. I'm not saying that they have no role in this at all. I do think they have a role. I'm just saying you're letting off the Western countries easily by just saying that they have a responsibility to their brethren. That's saying that because we are not Muslim, we don't have a responsibility to be looking after the people in Gaza, which I think is disgusting,
Yeah.
personally. I think that we have a responsibility to look after them, their people.
No, I agree, but let's see what happens with this
And
whole
we're
thing
lucky
because it
enough to
just
live in a place where we can exercise our opinions and
agree.
our political beliefs without being, imprisoned, etc., etc. And
Yep.
so we need to take that opportunity, whereas a lot of those
I
countries is
know,
not
but okay, but
necessarily the
what is that
same.
opportunity? It's sanctions,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Okay, yeah.
and the
And
UN,
stop supplying
yeah,
weapons.
but the UN Security Council vetoes that because
The US.
US will veto it. So what do you do?
No, but you don't need to get the UN permission to sanction
Great.
Israel.
So certain countries,
Countries can put
okay, but
economic.
it's down to Macron and
Yeah,
Starmer
so they should
and
do it. That's what I'm
Conley.
asking for. Yeah.
Okay, let's see whether they will do it. They've threatened to do it,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. I mean, look at their lack of action on, getting their act together on Ukraine. You know,
And Ukraine is even,
Macron's a lame duck. Starmer's in all sorts of trouble. Carney
yeah.
is in the ascendancy because he's just been elected, but Canada's a relatively small country
Mm.
compared to these. So,
And you also look at how much the Ukraine war affects European countries, right? It has a massive effect on them. We've also seen Poland have an election recently, which is intertwined with all of this. But, if Ukraine falls, Poland may fall, and then it's just a domino effect across the rest of Europe. So it's really important to France and to the UK to get this in order for their own self-interest, to protect their own sovereignty, you could even say, make an argument for that. Whereas I suppose when it comes to Palestine, they can probably ignore that it's happening and they don't
I
think
mean,
there'll be any repercussions.
I think, the challenge. There's so many conflicts going on in the world. If it was just Gaza going on, probably there would be more action
I don't
against.
think so, though.
Mhm.
I don't think there would be more action. I think that the world like forgets that it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's horrific, right? Because, that was that thing when you were growing up, right? If the Holocaust was happening, what would you do?
Hmm.
Would you just sit by or would you do something about it? And it's the same thing now, right? We have access to media, so every day we're seeing everything that's happening there. And there's no way that we can say, like my generation, to our kids, oh, we didn't know it was happening. Because we knew everything that was going on,
Good.
and yet nothing was happening.
Yep.
We can't claim ignorance.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
and
that's
that's one
true.
of the worst things.
Well, I mean, the long-term scenario here is that brand Israel is damaged so terribly. And if you're a Jewish individual anywhere in the world, life is challenging, right? Because, you know, people hate Israel now and they blame a lot of Jewish people, whether fairly or unfairly, whether it's simply the
Obviously
leadership of,
unfairly.
I think it's unfairly,
No, but
um,
let's say unfairly, not say
because of the
fairly or
leadership
unfairly.
of
Yeah,
Israel, but just terrible damage long
yeah.
term. So you've got to think people within Israel are going to rise up at some point around this as well.
I also think it's important to come back to the idea of thinking of countries as their leaders rather than the people within them.
Yep,
Even in democracy, right? America is a democracy, yet you have someone like Trump in charge. Not everyone in the country believes in what Trump
that's
has to
true.
say, but people view it as an American-wide
Yep, that's
rhetoric
true.
and policy. So let's start blaming Netanyahu and his government rather than the Israeli people.
That's fair.
And yeah, okay, moving on from that. Hopefully, Greta's Freedom Flotilla goes well. We're wishing her luck. Impressed by that, and maybe that will make more eyes of the world look in that
Maybe.
direction. Let's move back onto Australian politics.
Bradfield is finally decided. The teal Nicolette has won, and that was quite a surprise in the end because I think there was a North Turramurra pre-polling booth that they found some inaccuracies, and in the end, she won by 30 something votes. So,
No, it was 26
oh,
votes.
26 votes. All right, well,
Yeah,
close.
no.
26 votes, super close. Now, uh, I feel kind of good for her because this is her second time running.
Mm.
Uh, but I was saying to Freddie the other day, politics is tough, isn't it? You do all this work and you're either the opposition technology spokesperson, minister, or nothing,
Communications.
communications minister, or nothing,
Mm.
which is Giselle Captirian's scenario. But for her, she may well come back, and the Liberal Party and her are weighing up whether they'd take a legal
Mm.
challenge of this, which could cause yet another recount or a by-election. I would be surprised if they do that because I think Australians don't like to have to go back and vote
I mean, it's not
so
part of our
quickly.
political system. We don't do that.
Well, legally, there's a framework to do it, but
But we traditionally don't do it in our
traditionally don't.
system.
And I just feel like I think the Teal would win with a bigger majority because I think people would get annoyed with that because she's won. The Australian Electoral Commission, we're lucky, they're a very competent organisation. They've done the
Mm.
recount. Um, but interesting, there was more than 1,200 informal votes. as well, right? So if you think about that, it's interesting.
I mean, we talked a bit about that in the last
Yeah,
podcast as well, but
yeah. So should I say nothing
no,
on it?
go on. No, it's just I think you forget. It's okay. You should rewatch the previous episode so you actually know what you're going to be talking about.
So anyway, the teal has won, and so this is the first time in 75 years that it's no longer a Liberal seat.
Mm.
So one of the last Liberal seats in urban Australia.
Well, the North Shore doesn't have any Liberal seats anymore,
No,
which is remarkable when you think about it. I mean, you think about your life growing up on the
yeah,
North Shore. Would you
totally.
ever have seen the
No,
day?
no.
Would you ever have predicted this?
And so Tim Wilson's the only Liberal
But
person
let's say
who
as
won
well that
back
you
Goldstein.
haven't mentioned that Giselle Kaptearian that she did win the first round, like the first count, she did win,
Yes,
and then it was by a margin of eight
preferences.
votes, and it wasn't anything to do with preferences. I think it was just informal votes
Oh
that
no,
then
no,
led
no! But I
to.
mean, Giselle got more first votes than
Oh no, I was saying in the first count she
but
won.
yeah, she
You
did.
know, and Anthony Green
Yeah.
called it for her, and then obviously because I think that's an important part of it.
So yeah, you're right. It'll be interesting whether she comes back in the future or whether she this has been so frustrating for her. She's had enough. Who knows of politics? But she's quite young and from central casting, as people would say, and so
I
she
mean,
probably will come back.
I think it's pretty likely she'll come back because she's already been labelled a rising star in the Liberal Party. So I think a lot of people have put a lot of time and effort into her. I think Susan Ley was really excited about having her as communications, um, yeah, as a communications
Shadow Minister.
shadow minister. And so, you know, that's disappointing because obviously Susan Ley has been, you know, pushing for an increase in women in the Liberal
And
Party. And this could have been the new face of the Liberal Party. And I want to say quickly, before you say what you're going to say, because you've been like, you know, orchestrating this whole thing, that we do need to have a strong opposition party in Australia. It's an important thing for politics in general, because if you don't have a strong opposition party, like further right extremist parties often rise up and replace the more moderate right wing party, if that makes sense. So whether you support Labour or you support Liberal, it's really important to have
that's true.
two like strong parties who push against each other.
But not too many assertive women in the Liberal Party, according to a party elder
Mm.
who's reviewing the New
Because
South Wales
what?
Party.
Because there's one leader and what about five members of the
I
43
think Albo
women.
said it very well the other day. He said there's more women whose names start with A in the Labor Party than there are women in total in the coalition,
Yeah, that's
which
fantastic.
was a lovely line.
Yeah,
But
that's really
yes, we'll
good.
finish off with, this party elder who's reviewing the New South Wales Liberal Party at the Women's Committee meeting the other day. He was heard to say, "Oh, we have enough assertive women in the party. Perhaps we need support for
I know he was like,
enough
let's
men
give
in
the
the
men a
party."
leg up.
I mean,
They're struggling.
so it's just tragically out of touch, and hopefully I can't see that person lasting. Right? It's just crazy
Well,
stuff.
hopefully, because if they're last, then it's kind of saying that the Liberal Party is not getting its act together.
That's right.
This is the moment that everything depends on, right? Which
Exactly.
direction they head in.
Yep.
And I think that's a good place to end the podcast for today.
Thank you for listening. Remember to tell your friends and subscribe
Like and
and
subscribe, follow
uh,
our Instagram, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, all the follows. We appreciate all of you listening, and we'll see you next week.
bye.
Bye.